I was in my room, and in my in-betweeny state, my awareness neither on the real side or on the physical life level, but bridging the two. A good practice for the being-isness state, indifferent to the personal self, being the objective experiencer view, and standing then in your real awareness, in the new nowness of the is. Consequently, lots of phenomena can float in from the real side, insights and glimpses of what would be full-blown real side experiences, but kind of overlapped with the physical, as though your awareness were in two places at once. Well, everything is awareness, so in actuality, our awareness is everywhere simultaneously, and it's according to what we decide and choose to see and be. As to what of ourselves we want to view, and how much of our real awareness we want to be. But this in-betweeny state is akin to effectively perceiving the physical, and wherever the awareness happens to be on the real side at the same time. So there I was, laying on my bed, and suddenly a hand would emerge from my pillow. It seemed to be clutching something. I thought at first it was some kind of a packaged confectionery, like a Mars bar or something. I had the impression the hand belonged to something of an ill-intended nature, and it was as though it were offering me something. Everything in creation is something created, and based on an idea. Any agreement with any created idea has us the effect of it. Such is the design of the simulators. In actuality, then, everything in creation can have us embroiled in it, and restrict us to further lifetimes of unconscious enslavement, regardless of the nature of the idea. The only time this would not be so was if the created idea referenced the true reality, was backed by the real guides and all life, and so was not a restricting, tap-lining control mechanism. Of course, we can navigate through the ideas that reference creation only if we don't incorporate them into our created consciousness, if we don't add considerations of the mind or emotions of the astral self and bundle the emotionally charged idea with the initial idea into our causal files, or to add another emotional agreement tapline to the personal self. When it comes to the dark forces or other shady characters, they will always present their ideas and seek agreement, sometimes very apparently, sometimes with subtlety, but always with the intention of seizing our attention, our focus, getting reaction and emotional response, be the response outrage or delight. All of it is agreement to control. For the agreements keep us locked into the effects of the ideas, and the controller's ideas are based on restriction, containment, and demise. So in this case, this hand was presenting an idea to me, and were I to have accepted it, then an agreement tapline is sure to follow. With awareness, we can vet the intentions of individuals also, and even though all creational agreement is a tapline, the tapline will be of a more severe nature if stemming from the ill-intended, and we may expect to be energy usurped consequently from the astral. I would then refuse acceptance of this idea, and the hand withdrew. It reminded me a little of the means by which the dark forces garner agreement, either by seeming benevolence or malevolence of force and intimidation. The two heads of the calum, utilized by all tiers of the control system and their minions. For what followed this idea offer refused was the owner of the hand, I would surmise, and he was evidently most displeased with my lack of acquiescence. utilising method 2 then, that of intimidation, for what looked like a very demonic face, red in coloration and sprouting horns, was suddenly before me. I only had the impression of this angry face, as it was in such close proximity, and filling my vision, as it lunged itself at me, then was gone. It wasn't over just yet, as I became aware, still in my in-betweeny state, of the presence of something very sinister now. It wasn't the same individual that I had just encountered. This was something else, something truly monstrous and forbidding. It was also something of immense capability, as was my impression. My real awareness was busy providing additional insights and information, as the experience of this manifestation continued. It was in my bedroom, but stemmed from the real side. My perception in both places, in my in-betweeny state. So again, a kind of overlap. This was something more powerful than anything I had encountered before, very formidable, and as ill-intended as my previous red-faced demonic visitor. I tend to get a lot of entities and dubious creatures and individuals encroaching on my experience, and often from this in-between state, some may even paralyze me and attempt to drag me to the lower astral or wherever, but always I go to the New You song, which dispels anything ill-intended from my midst, as nothing of a malign nature can linger long in the true light vibration of the sound of the ears. It is a guaranteed method of dispersing unwelcome nasties, and even breaking the paralysis that some can exact upon you. It takes varying amounts of time for the invading creatures to leave, but depart they always will. This individual, however, seemed to be very resilient, able to withstand the New You song to a far greater degree than anything before, although it evidently didn't like the sound. It was almost like a battle of wills, as this powerful beast strained to remain in my presence, and I would continue to sing the new you song. Again, my impression was that this creature was intending to take me somewhere, and my real awareness knew this was not a destination very favourable. The paralysis was also maintained throughout the presence of the creature, and I had to struggle to prevent myself from falling into sleep. I've experienced that before, where individuals have tried to seize me from my in-betweeny state, and I have the impression to resist falling to sleep, as this would seem to be a success on the part of the kidnapping attempting creature, and I may well find myself somewhere unsavoury. After what seemed a considerable amount of time, finally the new you song bested the beast, and it withdrew. As I said, this was a monster of a mighty capability, and knew you song resistance, but maybe there was some agreement somewhere that not only allowed its presence, but perhaps afforded its perpetuation in mine, as everything we experience is according to our design, decision, and agreement, inadvertently, consciously, unconsciously, and subconsciously. Now I would allow myself to drift into sleep and onto the real side, and would find myself in my house with Linsey, my sister. That Linsey would follow such a series of attacks was curious. One might surmise she had something to do with it. We never really know who these individuals and family members really are that seem to feature in our experience, what their intent is, agendas, if they are bought off by the reptilians, or subconsciously programmed by them to maybe allow the reptilians to tap-line us through them. For often our guard is down amongst those that present as friends and relatives. We can lose our real self-objectivity, and be perhaps more so of the emotional personal self when dealing with such individuals. And if they are personal self-immersed people with no connection to their real awareness, they can be used like Callum pawns, programmed, and be tap-lining agents, as the reptilians can tap-line through them with the agreement and emotional attachments we may have with those we know in this lifetime. For everybody is an individual and just playing a role in creation. One lifetime, someone could be your sister. The next, they could be your assassin. And so, it's always advisable to scan every individual, no matter how long you have known them, on every occasion you encounter them. For everyone's choices and decisions and intent are not always cemented and the same one day to the next. On this occasion, Linsey passed the scanometer and harboured no ill will. So she was simply there, and that was all. She has no real interest in becoming more aware on the physical, but now and again she pops into my real side experience, and I take the time to share with her what I can, and take her to various places to impress upon her the possibility of more than just her consideration of her created consciousness. I would speak to her now about the life levels, explaining how we no longer had our awareness on the physical, and we were at this starting point in my house, which indicated my personal self on the real side. I suggested we go beyond it and outside of the personal self to the real side beyond, and thus we did. Linsey wanted to use the door, but I insisted we walk through the very walls. It was as though she applied the limitations of the physical level to the real side, that she had to use the door, etc. So often I will demonstrate the more malleable nature of the real side, how things move by thought. Why use a door when you can move through a wall? Or maybe ride on the backs of flying elephants or something.